Hi, Aude. Welcome to the Superconscious Leadership Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
A great pleasure to be here as well. Thank you for having me, Rosalia.
Wonderful. I'm very excited because, like I was telling you when I was speaking to you initially, that we have a lot of things in common. So I'm really, really excited to hear kind of how you've handled your shifts and your challenges and your own hero's journey and how you got to where you are today. And I think so many of us are always going or undergoing this beautiful transformation, right? And we're pivoting and shifting and, stepping into our next chapter, into our next identity, or shedding a lot of the identities that we had and making room for the new. So I'm just very curious as to how you've been able to navigate that, a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
Sounds good. Yes, so as you can hear, I'm originally from France, from Paris, and I've been living in London for the last 14 years. I was originally working in technology, and then I saw more and more how people were disconnected, and myself was experiencing a lot of anxiety, burnout, like a lot of people. One thing that was a massive shift in my life was passing of my dad, which in 2009, which reactivated, so to say, my psychic abilities. And so at the beginning, it was a bit of a terrifying experience because I was like living in a bedroom in a flat in London in Elephant and Castle, and there were a lot of paranormal activities, which was very disrupting for me, especially because I come from a family that is traditional, doesn't believe in this thing. And this led me to train at the College of Psychic Studies to become a professional psychic medium. And since that, so I've officially transitioned from corporate to creating my own business about 3 years ago. I've worked with more than 1,000 people, helping them to reconnect to their power, to develop their psychic abilities, to find their purpose, and to ultimately channel their business strategy intuitively, and to have this very positive impact on the world. So it's been an incredible journey. And so there's the element of psychic energy with Reiki, purpose, spirituality, but also business.
I love that you're bringing into the business and leadership and, personal development space and corporate, especially. I also have a very similar background as yourself and a similar journey too. And for me, it has been instrumental to bring in, the spiritual, the intuition, the psychic abilities into the space and being able to be open to operating a little bit differently because how we have been operating, it really didn't pay out that good. You know, like you mentioned,
Absolutely.
anxiety,
Yes.
burnout, and just kind of losing our minds a little bit.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about, did you have any of these like glimpses of the other side or of these types of experiences before your dad passed, like maybe from childhood? Do you remember anything like that coming up for you or any weird experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you may probably know or believe, I really believe that everyone is psychic. So I'm not more special than anyone else, and we can recover this. It's our true nature. But yes, I was having a lot of entities and angels and even extraterrestrial apparition when I was young, and it was terrifying. And I remember, in order to make them disappear, I will sing. And I didn't know at that time that singing is shifting frequency. So that's how like I will shift from one dimension to another. So now that I'm doing like on a day-to-day like practice of mantra and meditation, I understand a bit more like the frequency and like the shift of different realities. But yes, it was terrifying. But what I understood, what is terrifying is the unknown. But once we know how to work with these beings, once we know how to protect the space, there is no fear to have. And actually, it is part of who we are because we have a spirit, and so we are spiritual. There is like more than done to us things, and it's the last few hundred years where these things have become who in the Industrial Revolution, but before it was absolutely normal.
Yeah. Thank you for stepping and speaking your voice and speaking your truth in spaces where there's a lot of disbelief or a lot of maybe judging even and kind of pushback,
Yes.
a lot of
Sure.
like that logical mindset and
Yeah.
that science background. Um, and you still standing in your truth. I think that speaks to so many of us that
Mm-mm.
either are stepping into or have already stepped into whatever their soul calling is, right? Could you tell me a little bit about your journey? Because in my personal experience, they don't give us the entire puzzle or the entire bridge. We only see that little one step, and then we're like, holy crap, like what happens if I actually trust that? And I step into that, there's no net to catch you anymore when you're stepping into the unknown. So, like what was your first, when I'm not sure if this is correct, but it was around when your dad passed, I believe, that there's like this big like certainty, like this is, I should explore this more, I should step into this more. And how did those first steps look like for you? Because maybe we have somebody listening that they haven't given themselves the permission to take that step or to
Mm-mm.
explore that. And I really love to just take a lot of that cloud that's over this realm or this exploration of self, of consciousness, which you're not exploring anything outside of who and what you are, but seeing listening to the stories of how you trusted your intuition, how you trusted your guides, or how you trusted XYZ, whatever you believe in, and you're like, okay, let me try this first, and then this came along, kind of like the unfolding initially.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to your questions, I believe we have lots of multiple spiritual, sorry, my here, but like prick, a lot of spiritual and psychic awakening within our life. So my dad passing was one of them, one of the big ones, but we have many. And as you said beautifully, like our soul journeys are like the hero journey. And as you said as well, the rule of the game, I like to see life as a video game. We're not supposed to know everything. And even as a psychic medium, like people are like, oh yeah, but you're a psychic medium, you should know everything. Absolutely not, because I'm still a human being, okay? And as a soul, we are supposed to have challenges because we are supposed to ascend. And especially on this time on Earth, where like it's a bit like Star Wars, like with the light and the dark. We need people like Rosalia and I and the listener to do the inner work in order to bring more light within themselves and elsewhere, keeping in mind that we all have shadows and our shadows are again vector of light, like Rumi was saying. But like every human being, Rosalia, I was completely freaked out. I was a control freak. I was not having faith at all. I had for 10 years agnostic completely. And it is through the, like experiences, through proof and data, because I was very skeptical that I had no other, of course, we have the choice, but I had so much evidence that there was something else that I started to believe. And I saw that my life was not working. I was working hard for like the big companies and stuff, great, making lots of money, great. And I'm very fine now as well, but I was unhappy. And so that's where when I used all the solutions, psychotherapy, everything, that I was like, okay, I need to find something else. And when I asked, then this is where you see like synchronicity, things happen. And that's how I was led to Reiki. That's how I was led to psychic mediumships. That's how I was led to spiritual life coaching. And I knew that there was no way I could find my purpose in another company, that I had to create mine. And the people I attract with my energy, because it's all about energy match. And we have this energy match while we didn't know each other, So that's the beautiful universal intelligence are here for a bigger purpose, are here to change the world. Mm. So it is, we won't know, but it's walking the road And with experience, we have more and more faith in a spiritual way.
Yeah. So let's just unpack a little bit
Yes,
because
there is a lot.
so for us that we've been walking this path for a while, we speak about certain terms or certain things that maybe for
Yeah, yeah,
us it's
yeah.
already like
Absolutely.
normal. It's our normal, like the synchronicities, the miracles, the nudges of intuition, the speaking to the guides or to source directly or to however you do that. Um, for us, it may be normal, but if for other people listening to this, they're like, okay, hang on a second. Like, maybe they had nudges of this, but they're not really quite there yet. So, one of the beautiful things that I have noticed in my path, and you just as well mentioned, is the synchronicities, right? One of the beautiful things is I remember when I started asking questions, it's kind of like following like little breadcrumbs, like everything starts aligning and synchronicities start popping up. Do you remember anything in particular that, in your experience, that was like marked a very before and after? Like, was it the mediumship or was it anything in particular that really shifted your chapter, like in life, completely the other way, kind of like tilted
Yeah,
the balance?
yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, it was something quite strong because my past was a bit dark, and I really see that there is this archetype of the wounded healer. And for people who don't know archetypes, it's like you have the guide, you have the healer, you have like it starts with Carl Jung. And I attempted to my life like in the 2000 something. But then I saw that I survived for a reason, that something saved me. And so I couldn't just auto-destruct, self-destruct my life, and that's what led me to this journey of spirituality, self-discovery, better like taking care of myself, etc., and also helping others. And it's also where I understood that all the pain that I carried was also kind of life training in order to prepare myself to help others, and not as a messiah, but as, one of the channel. I believe we are all channel, like this vector of light and love, and you don't need to be religious, spiritual. It is like at soul level, and we have all a purpose, and that my purpose was to help others, like I would have loved someone to help myself at that time.
Thank you for sharing that. That is, I think we have become the person we wish we had like a decade
Yes,
ago or when we
absolutely.
started the awakening process. So
Mm-mm.
thank you for taking on that challenge, for not giving up. One of the big things that we advocate for here in our podcast is mental health, especially
Mm-mm.
alternative mental health solutions. And
Mm-mm.
I've been in healthcare myself for over 10 years. I'm a nurse practitioner, but and I'm grateful for what we have, but I think all of us, right, we're contributing to something new, to something different, to improving and shifting what we currently have.
Mhm.
There's a lot of room for improvement, so I think anything we could do to help, it's really great. Thank you for sharing that. I also went through suicide ideations around 2008. It's a tough topic to bring up, but thank you for being vulnerable because so many of us struggle with it. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
when you hit rock bottom, when you feel that you're pinned against the wall and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though now in retrospect, looking back, we could see, oh, that was the training. Okay, got it. But it's really hard to see it once you're in
It
there.
is hard. Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't remove the pain. And yeah, absolutely. And I love that you are a nurse. And for me, when I see society, they say either science, either medical, either spirituality. But it's like having like this holistic view of having, the medical, the intuition, the shamanism, and be like, okay, where are we guided? Where is the resonance? And this is because we are multidimensional beings, and so to translate it to your viewers, it's we have a body, we have emotion, we have the astral body, and this is where we dream. So we are so much more powerful and complex than we think we are, and so that's why we need to have the right tools, the right framework, to to be completely held in the right way, wherever we are in life, wherever step we are in life.
Thank you for sharing that. Before we go a little bit deeper into, explaining a little more how you support people nowadays, kind of like your services and things like that. So many of us deal with perceived loss, at least in our perception here, of loved ones, of even, people, places, things, jobs, relationships, just lost in general.
Absolutely. Mm.
And even though sometimes after a certain time you're able to see it with a different eyes, a different perspective, and be able to be maybe even grateful for that. If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit how you transitioned the loss of your dad and how that kind of like, you know, marked you and whatever you want to share. It's very personal. So,
Yeah, no, we can talk about everything. So at that time in 2009, I was very much in the archetype of the savior, taking care of everyone, saying, "No, I don't have grief, so prioritize people before me until I I touch myself rock bottom." So I pushed away grief. And what I understood is grief is as big as love. Grief is another side of love, and grief is not linear. You'll have like it has to be experienced. It has to be gone through. It will be like sadness, anger. That we are a psychic medium or not, we experience grief because again we are a human being. But the beautiful thing about developing our psychic abilities as a hobby or as a job or as an integration to another work or whatever is that it gives us like an additional tool for healing and another vision as well of the world. Because again, I was very skeptical about the idea of being able to contact my dad. But when I received at least, I don't know, 30, 40 psychic readings of people while I was training, describing exactly my dad, if they didn't know I had lost him, you can't doubt, like too much data. It was very beautiful. And actually, my relationship with my dad improved more in the spirit world than in the human world. And he became one of my guides. So often, like human being, we are very, feeling very lonely sometimes. But when we develop our psychic abilities and our spiritual, like open the spiritual doors, we see that we are never alone, you know? And this is one of the most reassuring and empowering things that is given. And so the feeling of loss needs to be acknowledged, of course, but in some ways it reveals something deeper behind it.
it's powerful what you've just shared. Even the energy shifted.
Mm,
Thank you so much for sharing that. And a lot of people feel like they are alone.
mm,
I have the same experience. We are never alone. We're loved, we're guided, and we're supported beyond measure before beyond anything we could ever imagine or perceive with our regular eyes or senses. And I love that you said that it's not linear, whatever emotion it is, it's not linear. And what I've what I perceive or have experienced is that it's very difficult to explain because it's a paradox. Like a lot of things, even in all the ancient texts and everything, you see all these paradoxes and
mm,
poetry and parables trying to explain the great mystery in some ways. And what I've experienced is that it's not linear. Like it's very interesting how you can explain that hate and love or sadness and happiness, it's all within a spectrum. Like it's not as dual as we perceive it here or as different. It's just kind of like the same, the other side of the coin, but it's just it's kind of hard to explain that. But I love how you mentioned it as well.
yeah. And so it's like, like people who think spirituality is all about being positive and in the light. I love the sign yin and yang because there is no light without shadow, and it doesn't mean light is always positive and shadow is always negative. It's like You need light and shadow. You need light and shadow. You need seasons. You need winter that looks like death, but to have renewal. And it is a season, and it is the appreciation of all the season. It's the appreciation of the sadness, the emptiness, the boredom. And actually, the most difficult thing is that seems the most simple is the appreciation of the present moment, because we can be so lost in the past, in the future, and we are projecting all the time. But it's like starting, and I have so many different influences, but I love Buddhism, and like this appreciation of like, wow, look, like this beautiful conversation I have with Rosalia, how precious it is, how unique, how timeless, and at the same time it changes moments by moment. And this is where you feel all the love, all the energy in your heart.
Yeah, I do feel that actually. So thank you
Yes.
for pointing it out. Um,
Mm.
yes. One of the big things I've experienced, and I always try to speak from what I've experienced because
Mm-hmm.
that's all I could do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I used to live very much in the past at some point, and then I transitioned that into being more in the future. And then now I feel like I'm more in the now moment. And one of the things I try to do is, despite the perceived chaos, due to whatever my limited perception of what's happening is going on, to always try to find the perfection in the now moment. Like there's a lot more happening than what we can perceive, than the problem that you have right now. There's so many blessings and so many other things happening beyond our perception. And really, it's an invitation to kind of shift that lens into focusing on those blessings. Obviously, you hear that all the time in manifestation and so forth, like focusing on gratitude and things like that. But it really does shift the frequency and how it makes you feel, and just really trusting that all is happening for your highest and best. There's like a trust in God and source, the universe, whatever you refer to as, that is developed, that it's that peace beyond all understanding, that I feel we develop as we go along, and that's okay. So tell us a little bit more of, okay, how are you helping today? What is it that you kind of focus on, and how you're serving now after all this in your
Mm-hmm.
journey?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have different tools that I use, like that it is Reiki, psychic, spiritual life coaching, or intuitive business coaching. But the overarching why is basically helping people to reconnect to themselves so they feel better and they have a positive ripple effect on the world. Because I really believe, we were talking about the feeling of loneliness and disconnection. I really believe that people are good, you know, and if they are able to shift their inner belief of scarcity, competition, limitation, they know they are connected to something bigger, and then ultimately they want to be in communion, in community, in unity with other people, with the planet. So that's my thing. That rather than, and of course, it's great to go protest in the street, but it's shifting people from the inside out, reconnecting to their true nature, to their divine nature. And I say that in a very down to earth way, because we are divine, and we are creator of our own life. And instead of focusing on the outside and the chaos, and yes, the chaos is there, but there is also, as we were talking about winter, create destruction for creation of something new. And I really believe we are on this beautiful wave of consciousness rising that is going to be beneficial for everyone. And the more people participate to this wave, the better it is. And it touches every part of society, that it is education, environment, parents and children. And so I work with everyone, that it is entrepreneur, parents, artists, and they have their own project, personal, spiritual, and business, but it is to on this aim. So it's generally they come to me for a personal or business matter, but then it expands for the whole world, which is beautiful.
Yeah, the way you do one thing, you do everything. Everything is absolutely connected. It's the ripple effect in every relationship. Everything, as you mentioned, it's we are the change we want to see in the world, and that change starts of the work that we do within, that reconnection to source, to the origin, to, you know, your soul. And it's very, you said so many things that resonated there. I mean, throughout, but there at the end, especially. And, you know, we're in constant renewal and constant change all of the time. And there is an organization behind the chaos, even though we can't perceive it sometimes. I want to, I know you don't need to hear this, but I want to say it anyways. I am very happy and proud that you decided to follow your heart, to follow your intuition in such a tough, like, space, where you're bringing the light, because we are the light of the world, and bringing it into these spaces and being that bridge. You are that bridge that is helping to birth. I don't want to get too woo woo on the podcast, but yeah, the new earth, and we can't help ourselves, you know, in a way, right? So, and being able to be that light for whatever that next step for that person
Mm,
is, like holding someone's hand when
mm,
they're, it's not clear, it's a little bit
mm,
foggy,
mm, mm, mm.
and that's nice for that to be able to have that clarity emerge in whatever situation they're going through. And I love that they can come to you not just for the business aspect of it or the spiritual aspect or the physical aspect, but it's 360, and just being able to use all your, because when we're using all of our gifts, all of our, yeah, our gifts, you know, it's a win-win for everybody. Like, it's like you're, it's that sense of completeness, of wholeness. Like you know, you are fully stepped into your purpose, into your beingness. And from the energy I gather from you, it feels very authentic, original. It doesn't feel to me like, you you know what I'm talking about. Like, sometimes it just feels a little bit pushy, or inauthentic, and it really does feel like you've walked the path, you know, yourself. And to me, that's the best certificate we have, is not on paper, and not to discredit everybody that has certificates. I have many, but there's nothing like the lived
Absolutely.
experience. Like,
Exactly.
you could walk alongside us because you've been in it, and you understand our pain, our frustrations, our limitations, and you yourself had to alchemize all of those limiting beliefs, all of those blocks, all of those things,
Mm.
to step into your power or into your next step or whatever it is. So thank you again.
Thank you, my darling.
It has been lovely to have you here. Is there kind of like a final message that you want to leave the audience with? And also, if you can, after that, kind of let them know how to reach you, even though we're going to put it on the description. If you could still say it, maybe somebody's listening to it on you know, on the car, they want to look it up over the phone or whatever it is. So those kind of things.
Thank you, Rosalia. And same to you. I love your energy, your down to earth aspect, and yet very connected, and kindness, and beautiful question you asked. And as you said, like, this is walking the path. And you know, it's great, you know, if we want to aspire to fame, to money and stuff, of course that's great, but at the end of the day, we are nobody and everyone, you know, we just like channels, we are just we just souls to experience a reality. So of course, if we want to become the next Oprah Winfrey, I'm sure it must be fun. But at the end of the day, it's like, the message I want to say is, whatever level you are, you're important. You know, like just a beautiful smile like Rosalia, it can really change the day of someone. So of course, it's always, she was a rare. Of course, it is. We always want to have more, but at some point, it's also realizing that as the energy we emanate by ourselves, by our presence, like you can see on this beautiful podcast, is enough, and will bring tears, will bring warmth into the heart. And this is so much more meaningful than to be the first one. This thing, it doesn't matter. What matters is, as you said, like this authenticity, enjoying life, making the most of it, appreciating challenges at some point because you'll see, oh wow, that really brings me more, and also up saying, yes, it sucks. Yes, it sucks. I'm not going to deny it sucks. And so, yeah. So if you found something valuable, like I'm sure, like go to Rosalia as well. She seems an incredible human being we just met today. But yeah, I'm on Instagram. Like on the social media, and my website www.audefirmin.com is available. And I will say, like, follow your intuition. Follow your intuition, because as Rosalia was saying, you will see if there are like some, sorry for the language, bullshitters or not. And you don't need a certificate. You have all the gifts inside of you. You have several past lives of training. If you don't believe in it, it's fine as well. But you don't need to learn anything. You need to uncover what you already know and your true nature. And when you meet someone like Rosalia, for example, you will know, because you will feel it in your body. You will feel it intuitively in your heart. And this is your truth. That's the inner compass.
I have nothing to add to that. That was beautiful. That was perfect. I don't even want to add anything. I'm going to cut it here. Ding. That's it. Thank you, Aude. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Same, same. Absolutely. Thank you, Rosalia.
my pleasure.